The year was 1540, and nowhere in England was more dazzling, more dangerous, or more politically charged than the court of King Henry VIII. Across the royal residences of Hampton Court, Whitehall, and Greenwich, thousands of individuals moved through corridors lined with wealth and ambition. Noblemen, diplomats, musicians, servants, cooks, clerks, and ladies-in-waiting filled every chamber and gallery. Velvet robes brushed against polished stone floors. Gold chains glittered beneath candlelight. Courtiers exchanged smiles in public, while trading secrets in private, always aware that a single conversation could alter their fortunes forever. Within only 7 extraordinary months, England would witness events so dramatic that they seemed almost impossible. A queen would be crowned and then discarded. The kingdom's most influential statesman would lose everything and face execution. Another young woman would rise to become queen. These events unfolded against a backdrop of astonishing luxury, where power and danger existed side by side. By 1540, Henry VIII was 48 years old. The handsome and athletic prince who had once captivated Europe had changed significantly. Years earlier, a serious jousting accident had left him with a painful leg wound that never properly healed. Injury troubled him constantly and limited his mobility. Despite these physical difficulties, his authority had reached heights no English monarch had ever known. He had broken England's ties with Rome and established himself as supreme head of the Church of England. Vast monastic lands had been seized and redistributed under his command. Wealth that had once belonged to religious institutions now flowed directly into royal hands. Henry stood at the center of a transformed kingdom, and his palaces reflected the scale of his ambitions. Among these residences, Hampton Court occupied a special place. Situated along the River Thames, it had become one of the grandest palaces in Europe, covering an enormous area and capable of housing more than 1,000 people at once. It functioned almost like a city dedicated entirely to royal power. Visitors approaching Hampton Court in 1540 would first see its magnificent red brick walls rising above the riverbank. Decorative chimneys twisted skyward in elaborate patterns. Heraldic beasts lined the rooftops and gateways. Lions, dragons, greyhounds, and antelopes symbolized the Tudor dynasty's authority. Above the gatehouse stood one of the palace's most remarkable features, an astronomical clock installed that very year, designed by Nicholas Kratzer. The clock did far more than display the hour. Its complex mechanism tracked lunar phases, zodiac signs, calendar dates, and even tidal information for London Bridge. To 16th century observers, it represented both scientific achievement and royal prestige. Every visitor passing beneath it received a reminder that this was a place where knowledge and power were closely linked. Beyond the gatehouse stood the Great Hall, one of the architectural masterpieces of Tudor England. Its immense hammer beam roof soared high above the floor, painted in brilliant colors and designed to evoke the grandeur of England's medieval past. Henry delighted in connecting himself to legendary kings and heroic ancestors. The hall reinforced that image, presenting the Tudor monarch as the rightful heir to centuries of royal greatness. Yet Hampton Court was far more than a beautiful residence. Every room, corridor, and doorway served a political purpose. The palace had been carefully designed to regulate access to the king. The closer someone stood to Henry, the greater their status and influence. A visitor began in the outer courts, crowded with merchants, petitioners, servants, and messengers. Progressing farther required passing through a series of increasingly restricted spaces. First came the base court. Beyond it stood the great watching chamber, where members of the yeomen of the guard stood armed with halberds. Next lay the presence chamber, dominated by the king's throne beneath a magnificent canopy. Only select individuals advanced beyond that point into the privy chamber. Fewer still entered the private apartments where Henry actually lived. Every doorway represented a level of privilege. Every step closer to the king brought opportunities for advancement, wealth, and influence. Appearance played a crucial role in this hierarchy. Clothing communicated rank instantly. Rich velvet fabrics, elaborate embroidery, jeweled accessories, and heavy gold chains all signaled status. Courtier's attire determined how he was perceived and often how far he could advance through the palace. At the very center of this system stood the gentlemen of the Privy Chamber. These men enjoyed unparalleled access to Henry. They helped dress him, attended him during meals, accompanied him during leisure activities, and often slept nearby. Their proximity granted them extraordinary influence. By 1540, these gentlemen represented a unique blend of skills and accomplishments. They were expected to excel in hunting, riding, music, languages, diplomacy, and courtly manners. Many could discuss politics in the morning, participate in a hunt during the afternoon, and entertain guests with music in the evening. Because they spent so much time with the king, political decisions frequently passed through their hands before reaching formal government institutions. Despite the apparent stability of this system, 1540 would place enormous pressure upon it. The year's troubles began with Henry's fourth marriage. On January 6th at Greenwich Palace, Henry married Anne of Cleves, a German princess. The match had been arranged largely through the efforts of Thomas Cromwell, the king's chief minister. Cromwell believed that an alliance with the Protestant states of Germany would strengthen England's position in Europe and provide protection against Catholic powers. The marriage appeared sensible from a diplomatic perspective. Hans Holbein had painted Anne's portrait, presenting her as an attractive and suitable bride. Henry approved the match based largely on this image. Reality proved disappointing. When Henry finally met Anne in person, he was unimpressed. Contemporary accounts suggest that he immediately regretted the arrangement. According to witnesses, he complained bitterly about her appearance and showed little enthusiasm for the marriage. Most importantly, the union was never consummated. This personal disappointment soon became a political crisis. Because the king wished to escape the marriage, every faction at court began repositioning itself. Supporters and opponents of Cromwell watched carefully, recognizing that the minister's future might depend upon the success or failure of the German alliance. Anne occupied the Queen's apartments at Hampton Court and Whitehall, surrounded by attendants from England's leading noble families. Among those serving her was a young woman named Catherine Howard. At first glance, Catherine seemed insignificant. She was young, attractive, and relatively inexperienced. Yet she possessed an important advantage. She belonged to the powerful Howard family. The Howards were among England's most influential noble houses, led by Thomas Howard, Duke of Norfolk. They strongly opposed many of Cromwell's policies. They favoured traditional religious practices and viewed Cromwell's growing influence with increasing hostility. When it became obvious that Henry disliked Anne, the Howard family recognised an opportunity. Gradually, Catherine Howard attracted the king's attention. Her youth contrasted sharply with Anne's reserved personality. Henry found her lively, charming, and appealing. As spring turned into summer, influential members of the Howard faction quietly encouraged the king's growing interest. Behind the scenes, plans were forming. If Anne could be removed, Catherine might become queen. If Catherine became queen, the Howard family would gain enormous influence. And if the Howard family gained influence, Cromwell's position would become increasingly vulnerable. For Thomas Cromwell, the developments of 1540 proved disastrous. His rise had been one of the most remarkable stories of the Tudor age. Born to a modest family, the son of a blacksmith and brewer, Cromwell had climbed through intelligence, determination, and administrative skill. He had become the architect of the English Reformation and one of the most powerful men in England. His achievements were extraordinary. He had overseen the dissolution of monasteries, reorganized government administration, and helped transform England's relationship with religion and royal authority. As recently as April 1540, his fortunes appeared secure. Henry elevated him to the title of Earl of Essex, seemingly confirming his position at the pinnacle of power. But success at the Tudor court could vanish with astonishing speed. On June 10th, while attending a meeting of the Royal Council at Whitehall, Cromwell experienced a sudden and devastating reversal. Guards entered the chamber. He was arrested in front of his fellow councillors and accused of treason. The charges themselves were controversial, but the deeper reason for his downfall was obvious. Henry wanted freedom from Anne of Cleves. Cromwell had arranged the marriage. His enemies, led by Norfolk and supported by powerful court factions, seized the opportunity to destroy him. Within weeks, the political landscape of England had changed completely. The man who had dominated government for years now sat imprisoned, while those who had once feared him moved rapidly to dismantle his influence. Following the annulment of Henry VIII's marriage to Anne of Cleves, the balance of power within the English court shifted almost overnight. What had begun as a diplomatic marriage designed to strengthen England's relationship with the Protestant princes of Germany had become an embarrassment the king was desperate to escape. Lawyers, bishops, and royal councillors worked quickly to provide a legal solution. On the 12th of July 1540, the marriage was officially declared invalid, citing both its lack of consummation and Anne's earlier contractual understanding with the Duke of Lorraine. Unlike many who crossed Henry's path, Anne handled the situation with remarkable wisdom. Rather than resist the king's wishes, she accepted the decision peacefully. Her cooperation earned Henry's respect and ensured an outcome far more favorable than anyone could have expected. She received the honorary title of the king's beloved sister, was granted substantial estates including Richmond Palace and Hever Castle, and secured a generous annual income. Free from the dangers that haunted the Tudor court, Anne would outlive all of Henry's other wives and remain one of the few figures from this turbulent period to enjoy a peaceful future. But while Anne's marriage was ending, another story was already reaching its climax. Only 16 days after the annulment, on the 28th of July 1540, two events unfolded that perfectly captured the brutal contradictions of Henry VIII's court. At Oatlands Palace, the king married Catherine Howard, the young niece of the Duke of Norfolk. At almost the exact same time, Thomas Cromwell, once the most powerful minister in England, was executed at Tower Hill. The symbolism could not have been clearer. As one person rose to the highest position in the kingdom, another met a violent end. A wedding celebration and an execution became part of the same political drama. Catherine Howard entered a world of unimaginable privilege, while Cromwell paid the ultimate price for losing royal favour. For years, Cromwell had stood at the centre of government. He had directed the dissolution of the monasteries, reorganised royal administration, and helped reshape England's religious landscape. Yet none of these achievements could protect him once the king turned against him. His enemies seized their opportunity, and the minister who had once commanded enormous authority found himself abandoned. Contemporary accounts describe his execution as unusually prolonged and clumsy, a grim conclusion to one of the most extraordinary careers in Tudor history. The fate of Cromwell served as a warning to everyone at court. In Henry's England, power was never permanent. Wealth, titles, and influence could disappear in an instant. Despite these dramatic events, the machinery of court life continued to operate on an astonishing scale. Hampton Court Palace remained one of the largest and most active royal residences in Europe. Housing well over 1,000 people at certain times of the year, it functioned almost like a ceremonial city dedicated entirely to serving the monarch. Its kitchens alone demonstrated the scale of this operation. Spread across more than 50 rooms, they formed a complex network of bakehouses, pastry rooms, spice chambers, fish courts, storage areas, and preparation spaces. Hundreds of workers labored continuously to provide food for the royal household. During periods of peak activity, as many as 1,600 meals could be prepared every day. The quantities consumed were extraordinary. Thousands of cattle, sheep, and deer passed through the kitchens annually. Wagons delivered spices from London markets. Honey arrived from royal apiaries. Vast quantities of ale and beer flowed from the palace brewery to sustain both nobles and servants. Every meal reflected the wealth and authority of the Tudor monarchy. Henry himself rarely ate among the larger body of courtiers. Instead, he dined privately within the more exclusive chambers of the palace. Meals served to the king were elaborate displays of abundance. Records reveal tables covered with roasted peacock, swan, capon seasoned with saffron, almond creams, fresh fish, spiced fruits, and decorative jellies adorned with gold and silver leaf. Skilled confectioners produced intricate sugar sculptures representing castles, hunting scenes, and mythological creatures. Yet even these extravagant meals followed a strict hierarchy. Once the king had finished dining, remaining food was distributed downward through successive levels of the household. In this way, the royal table helped feed a significant portion of the palace population. Each day at court followed a carefully organized routine. Morning began with religious observance in the Chapel Royal. Despite Henry's break from Rome, many traditional elements of worship remained unchanged. Latin services continued, and the chapel itself remained one of the most magnificent spaces within the palace. Its painted ceilings, richly decorated walls, and celebrated choir created an atmosphere of grandeur. The choir of the Chapel Royal was regarded as one of the finest musical institutions in Europe. Composers such as Thomas Tallis contributed to a tradition of sacred music that impressed both English subjects and foreign visitors alike. During services, courtiers assembled according to rank, while the king often observed from a private elevated position overlooking the congregation. Following religious duties came the business of government. Councillors met to discuss foreign affairs, military concerns, religious policy, taxation, and the administration of former monastic lands. Ambassadors arrived from across Europe carrying letters and proposals from rulers such as Charles V and Francis I. Diplomatic audiences were conducted according to strict ceremony, with every gesture and position carefully regulated. Elsewhere, the Queen's household maintained its own routines. Ladies-in-waiting spent their afternoons sewing, embroidering, reading devotional texts, and participating in musical entertainment. Yet beneath these seemingly peaceful activities flowed a constant stream of information. Gossip, alliances, and political ambitions circulated through private conversations. Careers could be advanced or destroyed through relationships formed in these chambers. When his health allowed, Henry continued to enjoy hunting. Accompanied by trusted gentlemen, he rode into nearby parks with hounds and falcons. Hunting remained one of the defining activities of aristocratic life, and provided an opportunity for informal discussions away from the rigid atmosphere of the palace. As daylight faded, court life entered its most spectacular phase. Evenings were devoted to display. Banquets, illuminated by hundreds of candles, transformed the Great Hall into a dazzling theater of power. Massive tapestries covered the walls, depicting biblical stories and heroic scenes from history. Musicians performed while servants carried enormous platters of food before assembled guests. Entertainment frequently followed the meal. Dancing, musical performances, and elaborate masks occupied the later hours of the evening. Masked courtiers portrayed allegorical figures representing wisdom, virtue, fortune, or honor. These performances were far more than simple amusement. They reinforced political messages and celebrated the authority of the monarch. Behind these displays stood an army of workers whose efforts made court life possible. Kitchen boys turned roasting spits beside open fires. Brewers managed cellars filled with barrels. Candlemakers supplied the light that illuminated every chamber after sunset. Laundresses cleaned vast quantities of linen. Stable masters supervised hundreds of horses essential for transportation and ceremony. Every office operated according to detailed regulations. Clerks maintained records of supplies, wages, and personnel. Hierarchies governed every aspect of palace life. Even the distribution of bread and ale followed carefully documented procedures. For ambitious nobles, life at court offered both tremendous opportunity and enormous risk. Maintaining appearances required substantial expense. Fine clothing, servants, gifts, and accommodation could drain family fortunes. Yet success brought rewards few could resist. Grants of former monastic lands, profitable offices, and royal favor could transform a family's future within months. At the same time, danger remained constant. A careless remark, an intercepted letter, or an accusation from a rival could lead directly to imprisonment. The Tower of London stood as a permanent reminder of the consequences of failure. Queens, ministers, bishops, and noblemen had all passed through its gates. Anne Boleyn had done so in 1536. Cromwell followed in 1540. Catherine Howard herself would meet the same fate only 2 years later. Communication throughout this vast system depended upon a network of messengers, secretaries, and officials. Riders carried sealed documents between Hampton Court, Whitehall, and Greenwich. Papers were copied by candlelight. Foreign ambassadors sent coded reports back to Madrid, Paris, Venice, and Brussels. Information flowed constantly through the kingdom, connecting every corner of government to the king's household. Seen from the Thames, Hampton Court represented the physical embodiment of Tudor power. Its red brick walls, towering chimneys, heraldic decorations, and glowing windows projected an image of strength visible for miles. Barges crossed the river carrying provisions, officials, and visitors. Smoke rose from dozens of kitchens into the evening sky. At the center of this magnificent world stood Henry VIII himself, aging, powerful, unpredictable, and feared. During the extraordinary months of 1540, he divorced one queen, married another, destroyed his greatest minister, and continued to dominate every aspect of English political life. Nearly 5 centuries later, the palace still survives. Visitors continue to pass beneath the astronomical clock installed in 1540. They walk through the same sequence of chambers that once controlled access to the king. Though the people are gone, the architecture remains. The walls, halls, and galleries still preserve the memory of a court where luxury, ambition, ceremony, and danger existed together in perfect balance, creating one of the most fascinating centers of power in European history.